to roll. Buildings and grounds. Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, first off, I have pictures here. I don't know if anybody wants to look at them this early in the morning. The main sanitary line that is in the high school, we had an incident March 6th where the pipe broke in 6 different spots, causing us to shut down the girls' bathrooms on the 1st and 2nd floor of the high school. I worked with Mr. Hall to make sure that the students who needed to use restrooms had the media center and John R. to use during the day. Schaefer Plumbing was called in to make the repair. We had it done by the end of the day. It is back up and running. We are monitoring it because we removed 6 of the vent stacks from the main sanitary line, and we are breathing the toilets off of 1. It seems to be working at the moment. So that was an issue we had on the 6th of March. Parkside, if you look at your pictures, you'll see these are in the cafeteria looking outside into the playground entry area of Parkside, and the 3 windows that are there seem to be chipping or delaminating or some sort of not what they should be. It does not pose, according to Six City Glazing, any threat to anybody in the building if something, God forbid, would happen. But I did ask them for a quote to replace them. You can feel, if you touch it, you can feel the depressions of the chips. Speaking with Nathan Jewell of Six City, he said typically sometimes when you see this is just when they're laminating layer and layer upon layer and layer, something just didn't work, didn't hold up, or maybe a chemical got on there, we don't know. And so it's up to the Buildings and Grounds Committee if we wanted to move forward with replacing them. I did put the cost in there. It's $10,836 for the 3 pieces of glass, and there is a 6-week lead time. You look on the proposal, they did throw an alternate of a laminate, just to give us an idea of what that cost is going to be. So that is open for discussion or approval to move forward.
What does it look like when you look at it?
Exactly what you're looking at. It just looks like chips and gouges and
I know, at first I didn't know what we were looking at.
It looked like a floor.
Right, I thought it was
Yeah,
a sidewalk.
that's what I thought too.
yeah, but you see those little
This
white,
one?
you see those little white specks in the
Yeah.
gray, that's the glass.
Oh,
that
that's
is-
the chips?
that is
Oh,
the
really?
chip, yes.
Yeah, it looks, yeah, something comparable.
Yeah, it looked like a concrete ground.
Yeah, no, I,
Well, like this picture here is on the ground, but, or is this looking out?
It's looking
This is
out.
looking out from the side, but those are all the chips and there's a line right there.
I got it, so
Yeah.
that's looking through the
Anything
window.
that's white in that gray is what you would
Okay.
see. And if you
Gotcha.
walked in the park side and looked at the glass, you could touch it and you would see what that,
Okay.
it's hard to take pictures of that.
no, yeah, I get it.
No,
No.
but when you explain it, that totally makes sense.
Yeah, when we got the windows, when the school was built, is there any warranty on the?
3-year warranty on workmanship, 5-year warranty on product.
So we're outside of it.
We are outside.
Probably what, 6 months or something like that? Yeah, that figures.
Built in, right?
Yes.
Okay, so, I mean, it's logical that we should replace them at some, right? But then the next logic is, what do we do when school's out?
Well, being 6-week lead time,
Like, we'd have to order, but
well,
then,
yeah, it would be when school's out.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, in my mind, we would execute when school's out. There's no reason to do it when school's in. It's not a big deal, right?
No, if we approve it at the board meeting on Thursday, I can go ahead and we can get a purchase order rolling, get it ordered, and then just set a date for the first week of June to get it done.
Yeah.
And you said, Rich, this doesn't pose any safety concern?
In their
It hasn't
opinion,
compromised?
it does not.
Okay.
But they're not gonna say 100%.
Well, yeah, no, I get that, but for the most part, that's, so it's not a safety concern.
And one of the
Okay.
reasons for the statement was because it's on the inside. It's an inside
Oh.
outer front layer. It's not like this is outside.
Okay,
where you have that.
Okay,
outside of
so there's
still-
no concerns from that perspective at
No.
this point, okay.
And there's no other ones?
Not that
we're
we've
aware of?
seen, not that we've seen.
Huh.
Yeah, so it sounds to me like an adhesion process, the glass itself is fine.
It could have been that, or there could have been something over time that we don't know about that hit those windows that was not meant to hit that glass, because you have to be very specific as to what goes on there. It could have been a chemical of some sort. We don't know.
Well, I think it's easy enough, I just think we execute when school's out.
Okay. Last year, Buildings and Grounds and the board approved the fencing to go around the retention ponds. There's 2 at Parkside, 1 at Riverview. One is fully completed at Parkside, the other one was finishing up today, and then once they finish up Parkside, that they will move over to Riverview. What I've seen that's been completed, I believe it looks, in my opinion, it looks good. Doesn't look too intrusive. The black does kind of blend in a little bit with the background. So that should be completed either the end of this week or beginning of next week. Several weeks back, again, we had talked about this several Buildings and Grounds meetings ago, replacing doors. We were putting 3 doors over at the office house, and then we were putting the T Hall and John R. going outside, and as well as the welding shop doors are being replaced. The house received their doors, 2 ends of the building and the back side of the building. They also have the crash bar, exit bars for emergencies to get out, and they were also set up to receive the electronic fob locking system. I'm working with technology and John Renwick to get costs on that to go ahead and use fobs for that purpose. This coming spring break next week, Diamond Door will be out to do the T-Hall door as well as the much needed welding lab door.
That one, and that, nothing's changing about that when we put the addition on, right? That door remains
No, the
where
only
it
thing we
is?
had to do for
The
that was,
landing?
it has a narrow window in it.
Uh-huh.
That had to be fire rated per code because of the building.
Oh, okay, okay,
But everything else is compliant.
okay.
Starting Monday, the remaining 6 bathrooms, 4 in John R., 2 in the high school, the 2 in the high school are on the 2nd floor, boys, girls, will be receiving the new bathroom stalls, much like we do have on the 1st floor high school and 1st floor John R. closest to the cafeteria. So that will take place next week as well. My friends at the Lake County Health Department will be coming out over spring break as well to do their spring inspections of the schools, classrooms, and playgrounds. Fun-filled day if anybody wants to join me. I am working on items that we have contracts that are coming up for renewal. One of them is the snow plow. We have some PM work that we typically look and address or talk about doing over summer, as well as other items I'm looking at that this committee should discuss if we're going to move forward with costs and items that we're going to do over the summer. So I'll be bringing all of that to the table come April. Our ad hoc meeting for Buckeye was last week. There was a topic of conversation to eliminate the Buckeye modular classrooms this summer. I was tasked by Ms. Denise Brewster to get some costs and what kind of detail is involved with that. It's been a rather interesting exercise. Here's what I have. I did call Shippers. Shippers is a company that moves large objects. They did come out, they did look at it. They said that that's above their scope of work. However, the gentleman who came out did kind of give me a little bit of insight, and then I confirmed some of what he said with John Moosbrugger of US Modular Classroom. John's company was the ones who installed the 3rd modular classroom at Buckeye. One of the first things we would have to make sure is that, and I believe ODOT gets involved with this, the axles will need to be deemed worthy, safe, and roadworthy to go ahead and move them. Prior to anything being moved at Buckeye, the walkways and the roofing attached to the walkways would all have to disappear. That would be done by a contractor or in-house. All electrical, all technology, and all security devices and fire devices would have to be removed as well. We're just not gonna trash it. Then the units could go ahead and be split apart, temporary walls in the center be put in, and tires put on, and then a company would come out to remove them. The internet says just to roll the unit away is $10,000 to $15,000 a unit. Speaking with John Moosbrugger, he, again, with US Modular Classroom, he stated to me that in an email, again, the axles would have to be roadworthy. The frames for the units would have to be deemed safe enough to transport down the road. And in his estimate in doing this type of work, if we moved the units, let's say to the high school, just because it's the biggest parking lot area we have to house them, if we wanted to reuse them, estimate $100,000 per unit to reuse them, which would involve permitting, tie-down pads, new roofing, connection of the units, electrical, technology, fire and safety. Again, that's not a written in stone estimate, but in his line of work, he says typically that's what it would cost to do that. So also to remove these, we'd have to take down the fencing we just erected last beginning of school year. Again, all the skirting would have to be removed, the roofing would have to be detached from the walkway, and all the items, again, would have to be removed. And what I just touched on as far as if we wanted to reuse them, everything has to get put back together, bolted back together, set, new roofs, new walkways that are ADA compliant with ramps. So that is where I am with that. I was told to do something, I did it, and
So
that's what.
when we purchased it, we got that from Will Beasley.
No.
Where did we get it from?
US Modular
I
Classroom.
looked at one.
Right, the Willoughby Eastlake one wasn't movable.
Okay,
It wasn't worthy.
so we got it from US
Yes.
Modular.
Mhm.
And so obviously they handled all the preliminaries.
Yes.
And then,
Do you know if we paid for the transportation here or if they did?
It was an all-inclusive package.
50,000?
Take a look.
Yeah, that sounds roughly right.
I thought we
Was a
spent
little bit
50,000 for the unit.
Could have been a little bit more said and done.
But I don't know if there were ancillaries
Yeah.
added to
Oh,
that, transportation. Well, of course, it's everything else, yes, was added to that. I mean, I think we have 250 in it, right?
I believe so, yes. I think all in it's about 250,
Right.
300.
Right.
I think the
So-
purchase price was around 50.
Yeah.
I think
Did he say anything
Four.
about resale? Because I think I was talking with Gary, and he said to sell those, that it has to be auctioned, is that correct?
Gary can speak on that,
Yeah.
or Mike.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of our assets, so it has to go up for
Auction.
first.
And so the newer one's in pretty good shape, so my guess is that someone might want it. I mean, when we looked around, we couldn't find what we wanted, right?
No, it took us a while.
So, and that's a pretty good one. I mean, the other ones are really old, right?
They're old, yeah. The one that we have is newer, but again, it's just like anything else. You keep taking it apart and putting it back together and transporting it. You don't know what you're doing.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The older ones, with age and all of that, the question is, will they even be able to go down the road and stay together?
Do you know when those went in?
Don't know.
2000.
The original
I
ones?
mean, they've been here over 25 years.
I was gonna say, the old, one, you know, the
The
old
new-
ones
the
have
old
been here
ones,
for,
like
as long as I can remember.
Oh, wait?
Is
Well,
there
at least that's
any
what I
use
have
for
on
them for
mine.
like storage or anything like that? Could we not put them up as class, I mean, we lack storage in this district too. Is that a thing, or are they not worth that? I don't know.
They're worth storage, but the problem is, do you want to spend that kind of money to move them somewhere else in the district for storage unless they're gonna stay there until construction would happen?
Oh.
Heck, you could build a brand new storage shed.
Oh, but we're gonna have to move them anyway, though, right? I mean, they have to be moved.
Well, the other option you could do is you could just make it part of the construction and make that part of demo, and then it's their responsibility to demo everything and haul it off the property. It's a cost to the district either way, but it's,
Right.
Yeah.
It's a matter of how do we spend the least amount of money and basically dispose, but the one, it's possible that, we could auction it off and actually get some money out of it.
of course, it would be the buyer's responsibility to remove everything. And
Right. So what did we add? Carpeting? I mean, what did we add inside that would
doors,
stay?
lighting, carpeting. I think we hung some
I was gonna
whiteboards.
say, did we do?
Yeah, we
use
did
ceiling
some
tiles?
educational stuff, yeah.
Okay, but I mean,
Yeah,
okay
yeah,
on
yeah,
that, but I mean,
minimal,
the
yeah.
biggest thing, carpeting and doors, lighting.
The electrical was also a big item.
So that was an upgrade. So someone's getting this ready to use, basically. They have to hook it up and take it away.
Not necessarily. The electrical panel in it is still the original electrical panel. All we did was we ran new power to the unit itself with a meter.
But I mean, we would disconnect that.
That would have to be disconnected and taken away.
Right, and they would drive it away. So, Mike, can you look in to see what the process would be to auction it? And, so on the older ones, I don't know. John would probably know better, if there's any value to them. I'm guessing with being that old, there might not be much value to them, by the time you dismantle and transport.
More than likely, the age of those and what we've seen underneath with a lot of rusting and rotting,
That's what I'm
it's gonna be much like the one we looked at Wycliffe to where, hey, it was a great unit, but it ain't gonna make it 10 feet down the
It's
road.
not gonna travel, right?
Correct.
So here's what I'm thinking. I had a trailer on a piece of property I have in the back, and, what did we do with it? And what we ended up doing with it is cutting it up and scrapping it. And so, you come in and cut the thing up, and obviously then you're in pieces, you put it in a truck and haul it away. Did John talk about that at all? Can you talk with them and say, hey, John, what happens when you go to cut these things up and haul them away?
I will do that.
He'll say, he'll give you his opinion.
Mike, when Gary gets back also, might be worth him reaching out to Willoughby's, like, I think that's what they ended up having to do to the one we looked at.
Cut it up and
I think,
scrap
I
it.
don't think they were able to get rid of it,
Yeah.
so. They may actually have a company.
I mean, that's really the only way to move it. You gotta cut it up and
Those two
put it in the truck.
Yeah, that are a mess.
Yeah.
Did Ohio School Council, did that other school get back to you at all?
No, they did not.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, literally, that's what we did. We cut it up and scrapped it. It was just an old trailer in the back of a lot, been there forever. So,
I will call John about that and see if I can get a little bit more, pick his brain a little bit more.
yeah.
The other part of the conversation was when we actually have to have them removed, type of thing, so.
Right, so I mean, you gotta execute it, right? And so, if I had to guess, my guess is we're gonna cut the older ones up and scrap them and hire a company, and it's just all part of the price, obviously they would get the scrap but if the newer one can be driven away, someone can use it, and we can get some money out of it, I think that we should do that if we can get some money out of it.
How long does it take to do something like that?
Well, you go in and cut it up, I mean, you can go cut something up in a day.
Yeah, but with all the other stuff that has to happen, like the electrical, taking the roof down, like that part I could see being fast,
Yeah,
but
so-
all the other stuff that has to go along
Rich,
with
how
it,
long
how
would
long is it gonna take
you
to get,
disconnect it?
and all that stuff out of there, like soup to nuts. How do you like that I threw that one in? And I know you're just guessing.
Done in-house, 2 to 3 weeks, contractor, 2 to 3 weeks. You're gonna have to shut down the playground for that period of time and then to remove the unit as well. If installing it was any indication, honestly, you're probably looking at you're probably looking at 4 to 6 weeks from start
Okay.
to finish.
Okay.
The good thing in this situation is it's always easier to tear something apart.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I just wondered, because of all
And-
those other things you mentioned that had to be done.
And we know exact what's gonna happen is the ground is still soft, so you're not, I mean, potentially you're not touching this until May, June.
Oh, well, school's gotta be out.
Yeah, we can't do it
school's out,
before
I mean-
kids are gone. We
So
got kids
I
in
would
there,
say if we
yeah.
started the first week of June after school lets out, you're probably looking second week of July before it's cleared.
Well, the
Okay.
question is, that's a lot of work, and you guys have other things to do, right?
Nah, they like to lounge around during
Well,
the
I'm
summer.
just saying, I mean, would
Yeah.
that, I mean, that's a project, would that be too big to put on?
If we had nothing else to do through the summer, we could do it.
That's what I'm
I mean,
saying.
But with what all could be happening this summer,
No, I would think we would contract it out. I think that's too much.
Yeah,
Too much delay on you
and I think
guys.
that would be a great conversation to have with Roger or with CCI
Yeah.
about what demo
Yeah.
company would be willing to come in and dismantle it. Now, the other thing I would look into is the newer walkway. That lumber's relative, if they didn't nail it and they only screwed it, we may be able to reclaim some of the lumber, but if they nailed it, forget it,
Just throw it away.
throw it away. So it's gonna end up getting demolished.
We'll take a look at it and see if it's
We're gonna look at that.
nailed in.
But I think demolishing it or getting rid of it or cutting it up would be a conversation for Roger and CCI.
I'll talk with Roger today
Yeah.
and talk with him about that.
Because the other question I could go back to is like, when those actually have to be removed? Is it this summer or is it?
Yeah, it's gonna be
later?
right after school's out. Cause then
Could be
they're,
later on.
because then there'll be going into, at some point, ground prep. And so depending on what the timeline is. If the timeline stays the same, they'll be doing some building this calendar year.
Gotcha.
Okay, so we'll see, right? Because there's a lot that has to develop and that's, a whole project. But, these are obviously something to be dealt with. So, yeah, I'll talk with Roger. If you'll talk with John
I
and get
will.
his ideas on that, because I'm sure he's had that experience. And cutting them up is just a matter of how many people you have there and how long you're gonna work, and you cut them up and take them away. Okay,
One topic for discussion that I have for CTE and Riverview. We did receive quotes yesterday, 3 of them, for the tree removal at Riverview. Davy Tree, $24,000, Stinzy Stump and Tree Removal, $22,000, H&H Land Clearing, $25,000. That obviously would have to go up for board approval on Thursday. If anybody wants my recommendation, I would say Davy Tree, basically on the sole purpose that their proposal is very comprehensive, covers everything, and they and H&H were saying that they would remove the fallen lumber off of the property. I don't think we want tree trunks lying around the school, but that's just my opinion. Also, Davy Tree did call out that they would be using a crane, and they're going to basically tie the cuttings to the crane and lower them, so there's that element of safety that it may not potentially fall into the horses or the school itself.
now, we own that property now, right?
I don't know.
I believe so.
Huh?
I believe so.
Yeah, we closed some time ago, so we own 200 feet into the horse area, so, yeah, they won't be anywhere near there, shouldn't be anyway. And certainly when you do any work, talk with the owners, let them know that we're coming over and that sort of thing. And then the new fence will go in on the new property line, right?
That is my understanding, yes.
And so the fence that's there can be destroyed. So, so I'll add to that I had spoken with a guy that does this kind of work, tree removal, and it looks like he's a local guy and lives in Leroy, so he's within the school district. And I think he can do this whole project for less than $10,000. So, yeah, I'm gonna get that information. I can get that to Chris, because he can just approve that. Right, Chris can do up to 15,000, right? So let me look into that, and I should be able to have the rest of that information today, which would save the district some money, and have a local guy in the district doing the work. So, and then he'd be removing the trees,
Okay.
hauling them away, not leaving them there.
Mhm.
You said one of the quotes was just to cut them and leave them there?
Yes.
Yeah, those did say
The
that.
Stinsies, which is on Madison Ave. Wood, it says right here in the quote,
Yeah,
wood
wood.
will stay on site.
Oh,
No stump grinding.
right, well, the excavating for the project's gonna take the stumps out. And I talked with Roger about that, he said he didn't want the stumps out now because you have holes there and they just collect water. He didn't want water holes. So, all right, well, let me see if I can nail that down, and if that can't be nailed down for some reason, then you're recommending Davy Tree?
Yeah, these were sent to us by Roger and CCI last night.
Okay.
And I just brought them to the table because, of course, over the 15,000 threshold, we would need board approval.
Right, right, and so, yeah, obviously a little bit of work to be done today, but it looks like it'll be this guy in the district or Davy Tree, and obviously needs to be expeditious because we have the Fish and Wildlife April 1st date, right, for the bats?
That is correct.
I think it's, what, by the end of the month, right?
April 1st.
Yeah.
Yeah, April 1st, and if you don't have it done because of the bat issue, May 15th. You can't do anything April 1st to May 15th. So I spoke with Ryan at TDA yesterday, and he had put together a rendering for Buckeye. It's the latest rendering on 8 classrooms.
Scott, not to cut you off, but real quick, I forgot one thing.
Yeah.
We've been talking about
Yeah.
this noisy Univent monster.
Yeah.
So I tasked 2 of my maintenance guys to look into it. They spoke to Famous Supply, and we can change out the Univent with heating and air conditioning. We can get the unit, sorry, my glasses broke this morning, for $1,871.52.
And that's changing.
That's changing that and using the compressor that is outside. The reason that it's so cheap is that vendors are closing out these units because the R422 that is currently going in them is going to become like the R22 and become obsolete. So I think we're gonna move forward with this so we could have a better heating and cooling system in this room and not sound like we have jets taking off. But I just wanted to let everybody know that the guys, I think, did a great job in talking with vendors and finding something that we feel will work. And
Will it be the same housing?
no,
Okay, so it's a new Univent.
Yep.
So in that,
this is basically what we're putting in as a mini split system.
okay, and so going forward then, on the component that has to be used in it, would that be the type of thing where you would just pay a lot of money to purchase it, it would still be available, or?
Not for many years. It's not gonna end up being like R22 where if you have 10 pounds of it, you have $1 million of gold.
Right,
No, it's just they're going to a different style and there's plenty of it in the market now that it's not gonna be.
No brainer then, right?
I just wanna let everybody know that we're gonna move forward with that this summer.
I know there's not that many people here today, but a lot of people like to hear that. You're gonna make a lot of people happy.
I just want it to be quiet.
And usable.
Yes.
Okay, so.
So we're gonna move forward with that, so I'm sorry about that.
Yep, oh, great, that's awesome. Okay, so When you look at this, you basically have 10 rooms, and there's 8 classrooms and 2, what would be called, tutoring rooms?
Oh, small group rooms. at the
Okay,
end.
small group rooms right in the right next to the bathrooms. Do you see that?
Oh. But-
At the bottom.
Right next to the bathrooms in the
Yeah,
kindergarten
I
rooms.
see them. One
Yeah.
says electrical, one says
No,
gym.
No,
right
no,
up
no.
our,
Other
in-
end.
Kin-
Oh.
At the other
At
end,
the bottom.
in the bathrooms of the kindergarten.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, I see what you're talking about. Yep, I'm sorry.
Okay, so, I had called Brian and asked him where he was, and he said Denise Brewster had requested a drawing with adding a couple rooms. I said, well, can I get a copy of those? So he put these together, and I picked them up yesterday at the end of the day. And so, so now you have 8 classrooms with 2 additional rooms for use. And I know that when I had met with Cassie Smolin, the principal at Buckeye, she had told me several weeks ago that 8 classrooms would be sufficient, but I think that in discussions and development through the Buckeye committee, I think that, a request for a little bit more room was made, and I think this is where we are. So this is the rendering of 8 classrooms with 2 additional rooms and with the gymnasium. He mentioned, if you look at the gymnasium, I forget how many chairs he said are in there, but yeah, I think it would be a normal setup for, performances for the stage, and then you have the storage room where those can be racked into the storage room. And then in the storage room, Rich, you're probably familiar with this, maybe whether it's hooks or things put on the wall so you can store things on the wall. So I mean, all that'll be developed, right? So what I would be doing is putting this on the agenda for Thursday for a formal approval. And then there's so much other information which is ongoing and gathering. The due diligence on this is huge, because when you're looking at renovating the original building, and then also renovating portions of the Melridge building, Rich, you know how many different things go into that, right? And so the type of heating and air conditioning, whether you're replacing boilers, keeping a boiler, dropping it from the ceiling, air units, whatever, that information, the flooring. When I talked with Cassie several weeks ago, she said in her office, she has carpet over the flooring, and that carpet was left over from the Riverview build. And she said it's been great. And so there's always the question, and I don't know if it was you, Rich, that brought it up, when you drill into the flooring, you could get asbestos dust, right?
But we did remove the asbestos tiles from Cassie's office.
Okay,
That
so-
was abated during.
All right, so that was abated.
That is correct.
So that's another question, right? So when you're looking at the building and doing these things, are you gonna abate the tile, are you gonna go over it? And so there's still information being gathered. And I think Mr. Keeney has been looking at that. Had you looked at the buildings with Mr. Keeney?
No, I have not.
Okay.
I've been through the building one time. He wanted to see the boiler room for the original section and the 94.
Yeah, so there's just a lot of information that still has to be gathered. But this is information that we have. And then the other information, whether it takes 30, 60 days, whatever, to gather more information, to have an idea, because this obviously can't be done out of cash on hand. This will have to be a loan. Mr. Purcell, Mike, do you remember when Purcell came to our meeting and gave us parameters, ideas of what we could do?
I remember coming to the meeting, off the top of my head, I don't recall the actual.
Time
believe it
just
was-
runs together for me. Was that
It was
3 months
I think
ago?
It was December.
It was December.
Oh, when he actually came, yeah.
so? Okay, yeah, so about 3 months ago. So we might want to re-engage with him a little bit and see where things are. So what would we do with him on that? I mean, we would need a little bit more information so we know exactly what we need, but the market has changed a little bit.
Yeah, I mean,
Would it be a conversation with them right now?
right now, probably a conversation, but part of probably what we would need to have is give or take an estimate of like what
Right.
we're looking at.
So, some bankers were talking about, he had not mentioned this, but I had spoken with some other people that do a similar thing, and this would have to go back probably 2.5 months. They were saying at that time 3.5%, but the rates have gone down a little bit. I don't know what that market is, but, you know, if it's relative to the market that we see, maybe they've gone down a little. So if you could ask him, just let me know what he says, where the rates are today. And I think that originally when we were looking at this, the rough numbers were 12 to 14 million. And then, of course, whatever time frame you pick, but I think Gary was suggesting to go out a little bit farther than what I would want to go out, but that would be a discussion. I think he was talking 25 years. I was talking more under 20 if we could. And the reasoning for that is, would like to not, two things. Try not to pay interest if you don't have to. And the other thing is, well, a few things, right? You want to have your cash flow available. You don't want to pay too much interest, so that's always a balance. What do you do? How many years do you go out? When you're looking at a project, how many years then would you be doing something more on the building, and would you need, you know, financing or money to be able to do it? So all those things go into the picture. No different than if we're doing a home improvement loan, right? So, yeah, so if you could ask them where the rates are right now,
Okay.
because that would really tell us, you know, where we're gonna be. But yeah, it's gonna be a major project.
I know there was conversation at the Buckeye meeting of whether or not the 8 actually is where we need to land or not.
So, right, so that's, I had talked with, after I talked with Ryan, he said Denise had sent that over. I talked with Denise and asked her, you know, what are we looking at, what, you know, what her work is on that, and she said, she thinks, well, not thinks, she's determined 8 classrooms with these 2 rooms. And then I think that we would have to identify, when we remove the trailers, the modulars, then, and you have construction going on, where the kids would go inside the building. And so I think that there's adequate space. I know that when I had met with Cassie, she had explained to me that there was enough room to satisfy the needs during construction. So that's where that is. So, is there anything else?
Yeah, Scott, I would just like to recommend, and this is just me speaking, when like Dennis or anybody goes into the buildings, can they make sure they reach out to Rich? We're at that point now. I mean, he may not be able to every time, but there might be questions that he knows about the buildings. It helps the communication stream.
Yeah, so, yeah, I appreciate that. There's so much information, due diligence
Right,
to be gathered. I mean, we could grab Rich every time that, you know, someone goes in, but it might be a waste of time for Rich.
Well, it just depends on,
Yeah.
you know, but
I would love it if Rich is available all
Yeah.
the time.
I will make myself available. for
yeah,
the-
I know he will if he
Okay.
can, so.
So, yeah, I'll mention that,
It just helps with the communication.
yeah, I'll mention that to Dennis Keeney.
Yeah, Dennis goes into a lot of the buildings.
Okay.
So that, and if he was here, I would ask him to
Yeah,
do the same thing.
so he's, I think, going to Columbus
Yeah.
also, right? So have you talked with him at all about that?
No, I haven't. I mean,
Okay.
I haven't had the
No,
opportunity.
I'll call him. and-
Yeah, and it's just to
Say that.
help keep the communication
Yeah,
going.
well,
that's all.
and also, the more everyone knows, the better, you know, so, yeah.
Yeah.
Some, you know, he goes in, I go in, whatever,
Right.
Rich, we can grab you, and, yeah, I mean, there's so much information to
Right,
gather.
right.
And I think general information has been gathered, but now you're gonna get down to details.
Well, that's what I'm saying, yeah, it's just that, and he probably holds 90% of the info we need, you
Yeah,
know, so.
and then, Rich, I think one of the biggest questions is, are we gonna drop from the roofs and the ceilings for the heating and air conditioning, or are we gonna stick with boilers? Have you looked at that at all?
I have kind of scanned over it with the one visit I had with Mr. King.
What's your thought on that? For both Buckeye and Melridge?
Starting with Buckeye, I think in speaking with Ryan, and I'm in kind of an agreement with him, you're gonna need your own standalone mechanical room. Because we're gonna have to upgrade electrical. So if you're bringing in electrical for the addition, it makes sense that you have a centrally located electrical room that houses everything for your addition plus your current existing building. And while you're doing that, you make a mechanical room for your heating and cooling systems. So you're adding a separate room, and then the boiler room, as it currently sits, would become either an added extension to the kitchen area, or becoming very much needed storage space and office space for, not so much office, but storage for custodial products. Because currently, right now, you have paper products near boilers and electrical panels. We really don't want to do that, just from a safety standpoint. So I think having your own standalone mechanical room somewhere centrally located between the two buildings would make the most sense. Now, whether or not you go forced air or you go circulated hot water, again, that is up for debate depending on how much room you have. But if you did have enough space for air handler or ductwork, much like you have at Parkside and Riverview, we do have 2 mechanical rooms. We do have distribution air handlers. Everything is within shouting distance of each other. That would make the most sense and supply what we need in the best way possible.
So maybe we could meet over there, and I'm just such a visual person, so maybe we could meet over there and just go over that. And then what about at Melridge?
Melridge, to be honest with you, is going to be just as much, if not more, of an undertaking because just the boilers from at Buckeye currently for the main building are 1965. Not that they're going to fail tomorrow, but they are 60 years old. Melridge, we have a CH&V, which is basically a very large hot air moving system with ductwork. So the ductwork is there, but you would have to change out the unit because of the age and the energy cost it is to run it.
Well, I think that's a no-brainer. I mean, we're doing things, we want them to last
Correct.
for 30 years.
Or you're going to get into a little bit more challenging is you're going to be retrofitting the ductwork with new damper systems, new damper motors, new air sensors and CO sensors. So there's a challenge there of retrofitting anything, but that would be an undertaking as well. We do have the space for that unit, which is good. We don't have enough space for storage and custodial. I mean, that's just everywhere. The other thing to keep in mind is having new insulated roofs on both buildings, as well as having some sort of thermal value windows. Because it's rather, in my opinion, pointless to put in air conditioning and if you're gonna have it just go right through the windows and make the birds cool.
Right, and so that's always the question, right?
How far do you go?
And we've talked about this how many times, right? We have wants and needs and, and how far does the money go? And then is it one project, is it a project, and then an extended project, is it different timeframes or whatever? But yeah, I mean, I would love to put in windows everywhere. And so then the question is, when you're doing the bulk of the work, how much does it make sense to do and how much can you add windows? And then another question is, does it make sense in your mind at Melridge to replace windows on the second floor? If you are limited on money and could do some windows, would you do the second floor first?
That's a tough, I mean, yeah, just from if you have air conditioning, sure.
Just because heat rises and
That and the sun just pounds on
the
that
angle
school.
of the sun, right?
We would have to look at some sort of thermal valued window to cut down some of that added heat.
So almost all the windows now eliminate 99.9% of the UV, right?
Depending on the market or the type, yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, all right, well, I'll give you a call and and we'll go over and take a look really at both of them. You think an hour in each building would be enough?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, all right, well, thanks.
We have one thing
Yeah.
to check with. We don't, I don't think you have any other buildings and grounds meetings on the
Oh,
book.
thank you for bringing that up. Want to put something on the schedule. I was talking with Roger, and he said there's something that's called a page turn meeting. Ryan, I think, is going to have his work done this week. And then what Roger said is he likes to have a meeting and do a page turn and go through the whole project. Helps him not have interruptions as the project goes. So there's looking at it then, and then also when the pricing comes in, he would be managing that and almost doing the same type thing then to make sure everything's in place such that when the project starts, he's not being interrupted and slowing things down because we didn't address something. So with that being said,
Is this for Riverview? When you talk, what project are you talking
Yeah,
about?
Riverview.
Okay, the first
Yeah.
one, okay.
and so I told him I would put something on the books for Monday, if at all possible. So Monday, this coming Monday,
The
We're on
24th?
yeah. Well, we're on spring break.
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
on spring
the
break next
31st.
week.
Can we push it till then,
Yeah.
probably? Yeah, because there's really,
Yeah.
people are gone.
Yeah.
Trying to think,
Because I'm not sure what Gary's doing. I know
Yeah,
Chris is
I'm
out of
not here,
town. I
yeah,
mean,
Chris is out of town, I'm not here.
let me think here for a moment.
We have our Riverview update is scheduled typically at 8 AM on Mondays. Can we not just link it to that? That's when we usually do our CTE. We haven't done one, Scott, in the past week or two, because they've been doing the plans, but our Riverview CTE meeting is a standing meeting on Mondays at 8 AM. We just weren't gonna do next week because of spring break.
Yeah, let me, he was, let me call him and see if he's available. Because he was saying that a lot of people really didn't need to be there. Let me see what his goal is on that.
So I'm not sure who would be here.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
anybody, I mean-
He was saying not that many people even needed to be there, so let me find out who he thinks needs to be there. I mean, if it's literally just Mr. Keeney and myself and them, for whatever reason, I have to see what he's saying. You know, Mike, I'll get back with you when I touch base with him. What is your cell phone number?
444.
Oh, you know this is going on.
Oh. yeah.
Camera,
Oh.
can we maybe not do this while
Oh,
we're recording? You're welcome, Mike and Tracy, you can buy me lunch later on.
You didn't want everyone calling you? Okay.
Five,
I'm not
five,
sure who
five.
exactly wants to call Mike and
555-1212.
Tracy. I don't know why they would, but I just feel like maybe it's a thing, like we don't need to do this.
Not too many people are,
800-555-1212.
Good gravy.
Okay, I'll call you.
Yeah.
And I'll see what he says. And he called it a page turner, and are you familiar with that, Rich? I mean, it's just going through the project, I think, for his own purposes, really. And I have to get a little more info from him to see what his goal is. Because I don't think, he said very few people need to be there. It's just something he wants to do. And so let me find out a little bit more, and it doesn't matter if most people are here or not here, I think. That's what he said. But let me find out for sure. And then I'll touch base with you.
okay.
All right.
And then just, like our next actual buildings and grounds, do we want to keep it that Tuesday before?
2 days before, we might as well, because we,
Just to have something on.
yeah, to have something on there, and you know, we might add one for whatever reason, but that would be the placeholder, I think.
Just so we can put
Yeah.
something out there.
Yeah, that would be good. Well, thank you. Well, hope everyone has a fun spring break.
Thank you. Again, I just said it's gonna be 40 and raining all next week, so fun is relative, I think.
If you're staying here, right?
Uh-huh, exactly.
Yeah.